Please salute as we say.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ben Sanasardo, would you lead us in the four-way pact?
I'd be honored. Four-way pact. Personal accountability with truth. First.
I will courage to tell the whole truth. I will be kind in the way I tell it. I will be fair and not seek selfish advantage. I will have an open heart and an open mind.
Jack Lucas, would you lead us in the invocation?
We can bow our heads. Dear God, we give thanks for this really special day of installing our officers. We give a thanks for the guests that are with us today. And we ask a blessing on the Rotarians here and around the world and the projects that they're involved with. Bless this food and this meeting to our use. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated.
How are you, Henry? Hi. Oh, then, yeah. And then I've always seen your
While they're bringing up the salad, I'd like to introduce guests. So first, we'll start with the Rotary dignitaries. If I call your name, could you stand and be recognized? Jim Thompson, our assistant governor. We also have past district governor Mike Erickson and his wife Cheryl. We also have past district governor's spouse, and I understand she was the boss, Nancy Redmond. Nancy, anybody else? All right. Speaking of bosses, I would like to introduce my wife. Her name won't be able to stand, but let's wave to her name. Ted, do you have any introductions?
Yes, today I'm lucky to have with me my father, whose name is Ted, my stepmom Jane, my son, whose name is Ted, and then the one that lately you all hear about baseball, Jason.
I think we have other guests, so we can start with Gillette Stable. Do we have guests at Gillette Stable? Yay! Okay, Diane. Oh, sorry. Sorry, Tom Minor.
I was gonna.
Welcome, Dan. Glad you're here. What?
I also have my business partner, you all introduced him when I did a little slideshow. He's part of that video. Simon Barker. I dragged him out of downtown Detroit this morning to be here.
Welcome, Simon. We're glad you're here. Is that it for you, Diane, then?
Yes, I was.
Any other table of guests, for instance, Bill Kelly, do you have any guests here?
It's my pleasure to introduce my beautiful wife.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody at the Fair Christian table? No?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have my best friend and my girlfriend.
Nice.
And my wife.
Three personalities, one lady. Go ahead.
I have my better half. Joy.
Yay, Joe. Eileen's table, anybody, any guests there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Eileen, I expect you to keep that table in order during the meeting. No guests here. Jeff, do you have any guests?
Yes, I have my wife, Mary Ann, here.
There he is.
Well, you see the salads are coming out. Enjoy those for a minute and I'll be back up in a bit.
I want ranch, but I can't. Yeah. Yeah. For trying out for different teams like this year. Yeah, he's well, he's gonna be turning 11 months. So, young. Yeah, we think that like he's such a love. Bradley up. If we get permit So some people use their phones. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Big Harry. Hi.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, Mary, you may not know my wife. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she's been our, she's been So, you know, Alan, more and more I start to understand why you're right? I think you're alone
Yeah.
I hear you like.
No.
I found another one that I started and it's here. You know. Oh, they're great. Oh. I mean, I'm sorry. We had.
Okay, now we're gonna do the year in review. But before we do, we have one more guest to introduce. So Gene Slinkman, do you have guests to introduce?
I have one guest. First of all, our apologies for being a little bit late, but you know, fashionable, so now. So,
Get fined for this.
yeah, I have no doubt. They all know me.
Nobody else got a hubba hubba.
Well, then I'll stand up again.
All right, year in review. Last time I was president, I came up with an elevator speech, which was that as Rotarians, what are we? What would you tell? How would you describe yourself or the club? And I've always said we're a business and community leaders that get together to have fun and to do good things in our community and in the world. It reminded me of a story. You might have heard the story before. I call it the starfish story. It's a guy that overworked, maybe a little bit of a workaholic. When he finally gets away for vacation, he goes to the Caribbean. He's walking on the beach in low tide, and there's just hundreds and hundreds of starfish that have been exposed by the tide, and they're going to die if they don't get back in the water. And he comes across a man that's picking up the starfish and throwing them in the water. And there's like way too many, you can't get them all. And he says, "What are you doing? And there's no way you can get all these starfish. You can't even possibly make a difference." And the old man looks at him, stops, picks up a starfish, throws it in the water, says, well, I made a difference to them. Okay, and I think that's what we do as a Rotary, right? So I just thought I would start with, how did we make a difference this year? I think our meetings were fun and engaging.
Yep.
You know, I'd like to thank Bob Fleischer, who did the speakers all year long. I'd say my favorite speakers were when he had us talk about us, right? So like I remember Gillette's, I thought that was very interesting. I remember Pat Groenwald's. I'm sure most of you would say your favorite one was when I talked. Up it's up to them. Just compliment. You know, we made changes to the budget. That wasn't fun. It wasn't something that we wanted to do, but I think it was something that we needed to do and had to do. And I think it's gonna put this club on a sound financial footing for years to come. And I had a lot of help on that from Ted. Ted, you've been fantastic this year with the budget issue. The transferring from the other system. And I'm just having foresight about how to adjust things, dealing with accounts receivable, which is not a fun job. Except it is fun day and you're gonna enjoy it.
I'm so excited.
I really enjoyed the classic. I enjoy it every year, but I thought this year was especially fun. So thanks, Tom, and your committee with the Caribbean Classic. That was fun. I know we're not supposed to say Yaman, Yaman. I always enjoy the vacation drawing. We raised $21,000. Thank you, Holly, for not just this year, but for every year you've done. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. You know, Mark Twain famously said, by the way, Mark Twain and I both from Missouri. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. I think one of the highlights of the year for me was the international exchange with the Rotarians from Jaipur, India. And not just that, but hearing from Holly, Bill, and Debbie when they got back, their experiences, and I know I learned a lot. I hope you did too. So good job, guys. Thank you, like I just wanted to mention, because I know this is important. My birthday is January 31st. And the first person to wish me happy birthday on Facebook was Radhika. From India. You know the date line, they got it first. Usually it's Susie playing. This year she was second. It's a small world, right? I think the impact we make every year with the fishing well, and with the toolkits is something I'm excited about. I want to see that go further in the year. Thanks, Eileen and Don, and many others. I wanted to acknowledge Jack Lucas for being nominated for Schaumburg Volunteer of the Year. That's impressive. Say my biggest regret is that we had a big ambitions for growth, and we grew a little, not a lot. But I do think that's the number one issue going forward still, is the growth. If we want to do the things we want to do, we need more members. The number one question I've gotten recently and throughout the year, am I glad I decided to serve as president again, the second time? So I would say yes, I'm glad. I know that the first time I did it, Mike Erickson told me, you know, past district governor Mike Erickson, you know that when you see his card that says PEG. That's your best year in Rotary would be the year you're president. You agree with that, Jim?
Absolutely.
So I've had 2 best years in Rotary. Thank you, Mike. Thank you to Brian for asking me. You may remember, I think I mentioned this at the installation, but when Brian asked me, where's Brian? Okay. You remember my first answer? It was emphatic no. Emphatic no, but then actually that night I went home and I went to bed and I just went to sleep and I dreamed about it. I dreamed about being president and I go, wow, if that's in my subconscious, I should do it. I'm older than I was the first time. I'm actually busier than I was the first time. And I would just tell you, if you're thinking about it in your heart, and you're thinking, but I'm too busy or I'm too old, you're not too busy and you're not too old. And you should consider doing it again, but let's just say that's terrifying to you and you don't ever want to do it. Recruit more people, because the more people we have, the more presidents we will have. Now I'd like to recognize my officers and directors. I would actually like them to come and line up right here. Officers and directors, yes, that's you. We did a lot of work last year. Really wasn't done by me, it was done by these folks. So I would love it if, first of all, you would give them a big token of your appreciation by applauding. Then I'm just gonna call you one at a time. You can take this thank you card for me, with a little gift inside of it. And then go sit down. We'll start with Ted. Yay, Ted! Rachel. Diane. Sam. Bob. Wendy. Jean. Linda. Randy G. Here's Ricky. So when I says,
Alan Gabe was talking to me.
can everyone give a big hand to Randy? Mike. I'm gonna walk this one over.
Joe.
Okay, now for the fun part, we're gonna give away some presidential citations. These are people that I first of all, I would say I appreciate all of you. Everyone here. It's a great club. And I'm honored to be the president for just a little bit more. So my first presidential citation, when I say your name, please come up here and stand right here. Eileen.
Yeah. Stand right here.
Stand right here. No, right there.
No, closer.
Yeah, you wanna be on TV. I don't know if you guys know
Not
this.
that close.
All these things are on YouTube, which means, because the internet never goes away. Like, someday all of us will pass away, but always in the internet, Eileen and I are gonna be on there, floating out in the interweb. And I just want to say, Eileen, you dedicated libertarian, there's no way to say it, the most dedicated libertarian. A lot of this year you weren't here, right? But your presence was always felt. The stuff you do with a fishing well and you're not the community service director and you haven't been for a while, but man, your presence is still felt in that tremendously. And your partnership with the Children's Advocacy Center, Butterfly Garden, and then you were recognized this year as the protector of children, as they call it, champion for children. We're all proud of you, and I wanted to recognize you with this President's Choice Award. Okay, so the next one is Tom. Tom G. Yeah.
You're on.
So I enjoyed the hug from Eileen, but you don't need that. I think if Tom, I mean, I know he's not quiet, but he's kind of quiet, but he's always there, right?
Yep.
He's always doing things. For many years, he's been on the board, he's been the president. He takes care of all of our social stuff, including putting us on YouTube. Tom and I are now gonna be in YouTube forever. Hey, Tom. You built a database of contacts for us, right? Social media, the newsletters, videos, every meeting, post on YouTube. On top of all that, I think you put your heart and soul into the classic. That's a big job. We raised a lot of money, more than $150,000 this year. Well, thank you, Tom. Here's my president's choice of words to you.
Okay.
Okay, so, there's lots of times that couples, you don't think of them as an individual, like, who thinks of Jim and Bonnie as Jim or Bonnie, it's Jim and Bonnie, right?
Right.
It's Roger and Renee, right? But it's also Jeff and Jeannie.
Yeah.
So if you guys can come up here. So though you are a couple, I decided to give you each an award.
Oh, wow.
Okay, because of the way you've thrown yourself into community service and
Yes.
volunteerism. And just made your presence felt. Thank you, Jeff and Jeannie Stoner.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Speech. Next, I don't know if he's expecting it. But George, it's time to do
Oh,
Yeah.
Paul Harris.
Yeah.
Presentation. Enjoy your lunch.
Thank you.
I'll just have everyone know my table made me come up here to get a thank you, and then I got nothing. I told them I shouldn't go up, and they said, no, go up. Okay. So this is something different. So 2 days ago, Rotary celebrated its 107th birthday. And I believe it was many decades later, 1957, Rotary decided to honor their person who started it all, Paul Harris. And they created a fellowship, and anyone who donates $1,000 to Rotary International becomes a Paul Harris Fellow. And so I want to recognize the fact that our club, according to the report I just printed out this morning, we have 49 members who are Paul Harris Fellows. So that's the overwhelming majority. Then we have Paul Harris Society members who are people who donate 1,000 or more annually. So there are 8 of those. I want to recognize Brian Bird, Linda Dressler, Michael Erickson, Pat Ronald, Eileen Higginbotham, Bill Kelly, James Lincoln, and Luncheon. Then we have other recognitions for members who are in the Bequest Society. These are members who commit to giving $10,000 or more in their estate plan. So the lucky number seems to be 8, Again, we have 8 members who have done that. If I can figure it out here. Mike Erickson. Lee Higginbotham and Louis Tenzis. I never knew what to do with last name. First time I've ever seen them. Bill and Jean Kelly. Jim and Bonnie McCullough. Nancy and Don Redmond. Gene Schleikman. Bill Vandenberg. And Edgar. And then last but not least by any means, our major donors. So these are members who have cumulative reached donations of 10,000 or more to Rotary International. And guess how many of those there are? 8. We're exactly into those. So Pat and Kenneth Gromwald. Eileen Higginbotham and Lee Tenzis. Bill and Jean Kelly. It says John, but we know him as Jack Lucas. Jim and Bonnie McCullough. Mike Erickson. Nancy and Don Redmond. And Gene Schleikman. So there we go. I would like to thank all of them and I'm on.
I'd like to apologize for George for not having a thank you card, but I do have a gift.
Oh, cool. All right, I'll take that.
You know, we don't like to talk about when we have a better director than we did the year before. We definitely had an upgrade on secretary this year. Last year's secretary, he was really ugly. This year's secretary is not. Ladies and gentlemen, Diane Darnell.
Okay, I'll take it. All right, we are gonna do some perfect attendance awards. We are gonna start with Ted Cruz, over 20 years of perfect attendance.
All right.
One of his sons was like, what?
Jim McCullough. Thank you. Okay. Vincent Sardo. These are over, this one is over 32 years, very Christian.
Oh.
36 years, over 36 years. Michael Erickson, he's come up.
Oh.
37 years, Ed Haig. 37 years, Alan Gay. 30 years. 37 months. Glenn Zergott, 43 years of perfect attendance. Give that man a applause. And the last Jack Lucas, 53 years. Just like them. That's it. Enjoy your food.
53 years, Jack? If you're a Rotarian and you're younger than 53 years old, please raise your hand. All right, we have some people that were born after you started your run. It's very impressive. All right, so I have two more awards to give. The first of the two is the Russell Ranzo Rookie of the Year. And so I would like Mary Mincia to come to the front. Mary volunteered for community service. She's done the butterfly cleanup. I think you've done the roadside cleanup as well. I know that even at the beginning of my year, Mary was very curious and always asking questions about it. And I think you're going to be a fantastic Rotarian. Perhaps one that has 53 years of perfect. So now we have our Rotarian of the Year, which I don't know if you guys can see the big, I didn't even realize this was available, the traveling trophy. At the back, we will get the person's name on that. Usually we do a big talk and it's a surprise, and again, you announce the person's name and everybody is like, oh, that's fantastic. But I realized when I put this together that when I told you why I'm awarding this person, you would already know it. So instead of having the big drama at the end, just ask Alan Gabe to come up there. He's shocked. Speechless. He just whispered in my ear that I get a year free of no fines.
Is it the truth? It's on camera.
I had laid out my top priority as growth, and I would say that one of the biggest recruiters we've ever had, including this year, is Alan Gabe, right?
Yep.
Alan raises money for us. He doesn't do it out of spite or hate. He does it because it's for the kids. He's been a very prolific fine master over the years. I think our club had the well-deserved, well-earned reputation as a fun, exciting, service-oriented club. A lot of that is reflected in Alan's personality. He gets out there, and I would say the recruiting is the number one reason why I picked you, Alan. But I would also say that I'm impressed that you're still networking, and that when you network, it's not Alan Gabe, attorney at law, that you're networking. It's the Rotary Club of Shelburne Hoffman Estates. And I would like to be more like you, Alan. Congratulations.
I didn't want to have, you shouldn't have the microphone.
Okay, I agree. I think he's kind of speaking. Yeah, that's right. He's having trouble writing that, and so I asked my daughter to help me with the chat GPT, and so hopefully it worked out really well. There's like 3 pages here. I skipped 11. People have asked me, are you happy that your year is about over? And I would like to say no, but we start with, isn't the truth? Yeah, I'm happy. It was a fun year. I'm glad I did it, but now I would like to invite Ted and his board up to the front, and Mike Erickson, past issue governor, who will be inducting Ted. Wait, guys, sit down. My fault. I passed over a very important thing. Very important, truly. It's used to be the Air Ruff Award, but now the 4-way test award, given by last year's winner, Tom Ghosh.
So I sort of remember
George's speech about this last year, and the part that I remember is that George mentioned that it's kind of the unsung hero award that this happens. It's not talked about all year long. It's not glamorized like Rotarian of the Year was a few years ago when we had the Walk of Fame and all the Rotarians of the Year, you know, had their stars on the Walk of Fame. And then the more that I read about this and the more that I had to come up with who the next 4-way test award winner it became more and more apparent throughout the year how proud I was to be a part of this award. It was a complete shock when it happened last year, and I really didn't know what it was all about. So hopefully I've gotten your attention enough to help you recognize that the 4-way test is not just about what you do inside these 4 walls, inside the classic, selling all of your raffle tickets and, anything that you do as a Rotarian, any of the volunteering, any of the giving, the Paul Harris stuff. The 4-way test award is how you live your life. And if you live your life by the 4-way test, then you're doing something right. I learned about the 4-way test through Michael Erickson, probably about 8 years before I actually joined the club. He, always talks about it, or always talked about what it meant for him to be a Rotarian. And the reason I wanted to join the club in the first place was because of the 4-way test. Those were things that I personally believed in. I just could never put it together succinctly in 4 different points. So when you start thinking about the way that you do business, or the way that you show up, or the things that you do when nobody's watching, and you're following the 4-way test, that's what this award is for. And I think this year's recipient of the award reflects that. The way that it works is past award winners get a whole bunch of emails from the most recent winner. And among that, there's a way to narrow it down to the top 3. And the top 3 were just amazing people. And it cannot be given twice. So it goes to somebody that has not gotten it before. So the top 3 were just amazing people, and any of them well-deserved. And then you choose from the top 3, and then this person wins it. Now I'll start telling you about the person, because unlike, you start talking about Alan Gabe, you'll probably get this figured out pretty quickly. When I first got in the club, she was keeping track of everything on the vacation club. That's how I first met her, handing in my vacation club tickets. Really didn't know the person at all. And then just learning all of the different things that she did behind the scenes for the club. And then she became the classic last year and came up with just the greatest theme. And this is including the one that I just did, the greatest theme ever, the classic rock classic. And yeah, I think you figured it out. You can clap. Go ahead. So I'm just focusing on the Rotarian part right now, but the classic rock classic raised almost $200,000. I like rounding up to the nearest 100,000. But it's not a rounding up like 150. It was more like almost 190. And all of that was with her leadership and her leading the committee and having a vision in her head that I know at the Stonegate came true, because she was beaming all night. She was not concerned or worried like I was. She held it really good. But she did an amazing job with that, among other things. This year, during the time of organizing the classic, my dad was not doing well. He's great now, miraculous. I have like nothing else to do, and now he's all of a sudden better. So he was going through some stuff, and she stepped up and was really helping me with that. She was actually out of town for the Classic and during the week of the Classic when we needed her, and she was there on the emails, getting things all taken care of. Whenever there's a question as to, who can help with this, she raises her hand. So before I burst into tears, because I've been very close to it, I'd like to bring up Gail Vandenberg. Then she gets a face. So I show you the award and then it falls off and rolls down the way, but it's a beautiful award. And you'll spend many hours staring at it, watching it go round and round. One more time, everybody. All right, Gail.
Now, it gives me great pleasure to invite up to the podium future President Ted Ross.
I need Mike as well, though. Can't do it myself. First of all, we are going super fast. We have this room till 3. My goal is to be done between 2:15 and 2:30, and we would probably finish before a regular meeting.
All right.
So. But he did open the cash bar for us, so please help the bartender out. So, and with that, I turn over.
So Ted, you've been elected to one of the most important offices of our Rotary, the office of President of the Rotary Club of Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates. You're elected by the members of your club. It is an expression of their confidence in your leadership. If you're willing to accept this responsibility, then raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, your name,
George Gross,
do solemnly pledge
do solemnly pledge
that I will faithfully execute
I will faithfully execute
the office of President
the office of President
of the Rotary Club of Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates,
Rotary Club of Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates,
and that I will,
to
to the best of my ability,
the best of my ability,
support the district governor.
support the district governor.
I have to put that one.
I know you.
And Rotary International. And that I will uphold the Constitution. And I will,
And that I will uphold the Constitution
and bylaws
and bylaws
of this club.
of this club.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone. This time I'd like to call up next year's officers, which are Roger, Diane, and Gary. And Brian. Yeah, and I guess you are director, please go up as well. Come on, Jared. No. Yes, you are up here.
Officers and directors. You have been elected to important positions in the administration of the Rotary Club of Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates. This is an indication of your club's esteem and confidence in all of you. They also believe you will uphold the high traditions of this club and that you will give the best of your executive ability to the furtherance of the interest of your club and carrying forward the object of Rotary. If you agree to fulfill the responsibilities of your office to the best of your ability, then I ask you to raise your right hand and repeat after me. I Your name. Do solemnly pledge that I will fulfill the duties of my office in the Rotary Club, Farmer Coffin Estates, to the best of my ability, that I will support President Ted and abide by our club's constitution and bylaws.
Constitution and bylaws.
Congratulations, and we have some pins here for you. Officers and directors, congratulations, and hopefully you guys will do just as well as our prior board.
Ask everyone on the board except Roger to sit down. And back in a second. You say that you're by yourself. Rob, be right back.
He's back.
Like to entertain a motion to impeach?
I would second that motion. I know you. So, as many of us who have been president before, as Roger had, seem to have problems with our past president pin. Mine was destroyed in a classic dry cleaning accident. And Roger's is gone. We did go ahead and get another one, although they don't quite make exactly the same pins anymore, but we can give you your new path of the pin. Have a second plaque and gavel for you, which leave in the box, but you can see has the Rotary emblem and his name and your on it.
All right.
Second, and on behalf of, so it is a tradition to give the outgoing president a gift, and usually Roger got probably, as far as I know, the best president gift ever, for sure. He still uses it today, right? For those of you who don't know, it's a golf bag. It says, I don't know, past president or something, and his years on there. I like to golf. Didn't really think he needed another one, and we had a hard time figuring out what to do for Roger, but we know he likes to cook, and he likes to grill. So, but that also raised, we tried to do all kinds of fancy things to figure out a way that it just wasn't working out. So instead, there is a somewhat, I don't know if you're familiar with it in Gilbert's, but down in Elburn, there's a famous, sort of semi-famous in the area, butcher shop. So in here, on behalf of the club and board, is a gift certificate there, so you can choose your own meats. At this time, I think it's important to also acknowledge the sacrifices made by Roger's loving spouse, Renee. And so we have here. Okay, for Renee. My wife did originally intend to attend. Unfortunately, some things with work and also the fact that she took 4 days off this week to take my daughter to freshman orientation in college made it a little difficult to be here. So standing in for my wife will be the baseball player Jason, who's going to get his mom's flowers and bring them home. And then I didn't realize what Roger was going to, or I should say what Tom was going to do. But in furtherance of Gail's award, this has been, this installation dinner, you know, sort of came lunch, sort of came about as a number of different things. Jill and I were really trying to attend the international conference in Calgary, which I think most people who are going are leaving today or tomorrow for it, because it's next week. We had a number of things involving his baseball team, her work, my work, that made it sort of impossible to go. But at the time, we didn't think we were going to have an opportunity to do that. But what it meant was this date was in flux for a very long time and not solidified until basically March. And then after that, it was, oh, what do? We normally have a whole committee for this, right? So, but I would like to say that a number of people did help out, but once again, Gail has gone above and beyond and has gone really well, helped me out. On task for this today, put together the programs, and really helped. Obviously, she did a very nice invitation that got most of you here. And I will say, Gail, you did a good job that today is officially Roger's best attended Rotary. So for that, Gail, I'd like you to come up. We also have a bouquet for you.
All the time it's
So it says in this program that I'm supposed to say a few words, but seeing as we have an hour and a half, I'm gonna have to go way long. So we can, if you want, we have the time. But I don't know if our Rotarian of the year is open, but we actually did sort of discuss it.
Get him in there. Go.
All right, I will refer to, we will bring you up unexpectedly, Alec, for a few minutes, and then I will come.
So for our guests, what Fun and Frolic is, we have three major fundraisers in the club. It's the classic you heard a lot about, where we raise hundreds of thousands of dollars. We have the Marriott timeshare vacation raffle that Holly does a great job with every year. And the third major fundraiser is me. And what we do is we have fines people, and it's in good nature usually. When I do it, and then Jim is going to do it with me jointly today, because we have entirely different styles. Tell everybody what your rules are.
Well, my rules are pretty easy. Number one is all fines are $2 unless we state otherwise. Alan, that's like the anti-Alan Gabe rule, because it's all a program with Alan. It's also the anti-four-way test. I never tell the truth. It's coming out of me. It's probably not the truth when it comes to this. It certainly is not fair to anybody here. Well, not really even us too. So, and it's not beneficial either, and it certainly will not build friendships for me. So, that's...
So to start off, we need a couple volunteers to stand to collect the money, which we're going to collect today. The first fine is going to be, like, there are a lot of awards given out today, and it's wonderful. And in all honesty, I was shocked that I won the award I won. Yeah, we were so upset. And I agree with Jeff, but I was upset that I didn't get a bouquet of flowers. So everybody who got a bouquet of flowers will pay $2 today for a fine. Also, if you did not receive an award today, you're a slacker, so that'll be $2. If you are at a table and you don't have any guests, then you should be ashamed of yourself. And that's why Jim and I are up here, because we don't pay fines. But if you don't have a guest at your table, that'll be $2. Jim, you want to?
Yeah, I have a couple of fines. I don't think that the speech that Ted gave for Roger was the one as good as the one that Gene gave for me. So, because it was all about beer for me at the time. So wasn't it, Gene? Is that right? So that's one. I mean, you didn't even give him a golf bag. Do you think that matches that? I don't think so. I'm just, that's just me. I'm just saying. Oh, you haven't? Okay.
You asked to be Fun and Frolic.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Okay. Well, try to make it memorable.
Maybe you should.
Okay. You think I should get fined?
Uh-oh.
Okay, we don't usually find guests, Vicky.
I
But
got my money. And I'll take it.
So for accepting the hubba hubba that I gave very nicely, I'm giving you a $2 fine for that.
so Vicky brought up something, you know, Vicky is Jean's spouse, so if you have a spouse and your spouse or significant other is not here, this is a big event. It's to honor Roger and to honor Ted. So you didn't think it was important enough to have your spouse here today, you'll pay $2. Okay? If you are a spouse and you're showing off, you're gonna pay $2 to make up for all the people who didn't bring a spouse.
Okay, and I'm gonna find Jeff Miller over here, right here. Jeff said I did a really good job with the flowers, and he didn't know anything that was in the flowers. I would, hey, do you like this? You like that? He goes, and he's texting me during the meeting. So nice.
Then I took, you know, this is the flower I like right here.
Yeah.
He asked me what I like. I didn't know, and he said, is it a Kasuma Savama? But then I do a Google thing on it, right? Because if you look it up, Google didn't know either. What is this?
It's called Stop.
Like, stop. It's like, doesn't even have a name?
That's the name.
Stop.
You know, Jeff, when I like your signs, I don't say anything. I mean, I say, hey, I like the F on that. I like the S. I like all those things, the letters you put on there. You know, that's easy for me.
Wait, I have an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Gross is up here. Go give it a flower. Give it a flower. Give it a flower. So if anybody came late to the meeting, that'll be $5. I do have to say something serious. Last Wednesday, I was honored to be at the Northwest Suburban Bar Association installation dinner. Bill Kelly and his family were honored with an award in honor of the great work Kelly has done, and his brother who passed away, and his brother Tom gave a great speech. And I was talking to his wife Jean, and we were both glad that his brother Tom gave the speech, because if it were Bill, it would still be going on. So Bill, you can pay $5 for the honor of not giving the speech.
Can we do it now?
Well, Ted has 2 hours to go, yes. Okay. Now, if anybody has not paid a fine, please raise your hand.
Oh, good.
Oh, Debbie, I'm sorry. What's your name, sir? Pardon?
Simon.
Simon's a guest.
Okay, so why didn't you pay a fine?
He's a guest.
You said guest, I thought.
No, we said guests don't usually.
Exceptions are made.
Okay, so you know, we're honored to have someone from New Zealand. We're glad you're here. You know, I use Kiwi shoe polish, so that would be $2 for you. And Debbie Schmidt, you're laughing much too much, so that'll be $2. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, gentlemen, for the impromptu time. I'm very surprised. I was not expecting my wife to arrive, so now I can in fact give her the thank you in advance bouquet for all the time that I'm gonna have to spend on Rotary this year. So Jill, you can help me get there. Jason accepted them in your place early. All right, well, with that, I am gonna go into my speech, so you might want to leave. But actually, so the first thing I wanted to do was to thank Roger, but now I don't know what to say because I have been put on the spot. But I know that by these gentlemen said I have to have this fantastic speech now, right? So obviously, much like Roger, when Rachel asked me, do I want to be president? And my answer originally was also no. And then I talked to my wife, and I think the next day or the day after, I said, you know what, we're gonna do it. And I meant we, because she has to put up with a lot of the time that I spend. But also I would say that Roger has been, you guys all know who I am, right? So I don't have to pretend. He's the calming person. I'm the one who wants to rush through be the bull in the china shop. So
Yeah.
I know. So he'll be there next year, so you won't have to worry about it. And then Diane will take over all of you. I can't even believe you guys elected me. So, but I would say that I know Roger's had a little bit of a challenging year from other things, but I think that it's been a fantastic year. We have accomplished a lot under him as president this year. Just everything, even if it didn't seem outwardly smooth, it was extremely smooth. We did talk a lot, and I cannot do the kind of speech they said. I don't know if you want to talk about beer. We could talk about golf if you'd like. I send him some golf memes every once in a while, but I thank you a lot because I have a particular leadership style, which some people know, but I've learned some things from him. So his is quite different than mine, but I will try to implement both. So thank you again, Roger, for a fantastic year. I would like to thank my family for coming today. Surprised that my wife was able to make it. That's fantastic. You met Jason earlier, the baseball player, my namesake Ted Jr., my stepmom Jane, and my father Dad, or my father Ted. So yeah. So the point of where I was going with that though is this is Ted Jr., but he's really the fifth, and quite frankly, if you follow what my grandfather said, the sixth in the name person of people with our name. And I wish that he could be here, but Jordan is working, getting ready for college. And then Zach, as many of you know, although he's not part officially of the Hoffman Estates toolkit situation, Dan Lentino, who came in and told us about it, and part of the mechanics union, got my interest that day. He was here probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. But Zach is today attending his last class in that program. He could not be here because he is, and he also now works for Patrick Volvo in Schaumburg. So thank you for your time. I thought I would start with just a little bit of the way our club works and how my history in the club sort of also goes with the way Rotary sometimes works. My first meeting attended was May of 2005. I was actually inducted June of 2005, which means I have been in the club for 20 years. Attendance I'll talk about in a second. But if you look at Club Runner, it says I was inducted in September. But if you look at RI, it says I joined in October, which seems about right for Rotary, right? So I also had 2 sponsors. Originally it was Ed, and then it was also Jim Algren, because really I just showed up one day with my boss. And although I no longer work for him, I will say that he was a significant supporter of Rotary financially and just as an active member, and got me involved in the club. While I was in the club early on, I got involved, probably because I didn't know how to say no at that time. And apparently still don't, since I'm standing here again. But I was within 2 years, I was on the foundation board and made treasurer, which back in the day was not a role you wanted to have. And I also did not know that basically that meant nobody else wanted to do it. And I was literally handed a box of stuff from Bill that said, here you go, you're the treasurer now. And it was quite, back then we used Quicken, I think it was, not even QuickBooks for our checking. And now we are luckily to have a much more substantial, but also organized foundation accounts. In 2009, I joined the club board and I was the vocational director. I keep taking the easy way out of things. Like I followed Don Miner. Do you think I really had to do anything immediately following Don Miner as the vocational director? I just picked up the phone once a month and asked all the people he left in place, hey, what are you doing this month? And I had great reports every month at the board meeting. I didn't do anything. They just let it be, which I would suggest is something that you can do. If things are working, we don't need to change it. And then a couple of years later, when
I didn't follow Roger directly last time. In between was Julie Clark, Roger, Julie, and myself. Some of you may remember there was this contention of whether or not the club board, or I'm sorry, the budget should be one big budget as it had been for years, or should we have two budgets, one for the foundation and one for the club, which of course we do now. And Julie and I were somewhat instrumental in doing it, but it led to one of my favorite moments in the club. And Roger and I talk about it often. We all met at Alan Gabe's office in this conference room, I think in December or January of that year, to discuss how we were going to separate the foundation budget from the club budget and how it was going to work. In Glenn, it was fantastic. It was very contentious, but friendly, the Rotary Club. There was some tension in the room, and Glenn stood up and pointed at Roger and said, your year is your year is over already. And it was like December. And so, and he pounded the table, and it got the attention of the room, but as we always do, we got through it and we worked it out, and still we laugh about it all the time. Hopefully we don't have that though this year. When I became president, I got to preside over the end of the Women's and Children's Hospital. I got to present the last check. And I remember bringing all the presidents who had been before me to help present the final check when they came. Also during my year as president, following the Mead example, we created the food pantry at Keller. And I believe because it was so successful, we did a second one. I want to say it was in Eisenhower, all in that year. So I also oversaw, and I'll say this, Roger has this supposed rule at Edward Jones that he can't, I'm using my air quotes, that he can't handle the money, which has meant that I was treasurer 4 times. So, and he has never been. So and I am responsible for us having the bookkeeper in the first place the last time, because that was crazy. We used to do that all by hand. But then even this last go around for 2 years, we transitioned, and I know, and Jack didn't ask me today, it's the first meeting in about since March where the bills are going to come out. So let me just clarify one thing. Between the number of things with the accountant surgery, some things I had at work, we're doing a quarterly billing after this meeting. So you could expect your bill next week. However, when Diane takes over, we will go back to by the second Friday after the last month, you'll get your invoice on a monthly basis. But well, just remember your bill's going to be large, because it'll be $50 for every month, Friends of the Foundation, and every lunch you attended since the end of March. But with that aside, and also I would like to say that I thank Roger for having patience for this, because as many of you know, we had a hard transition basically because of software issues. At this time last year, not so much this time, we kind of fixed it, but in April and May of last year, I was sitting here with my fingers crossed that nobody would win the Queen of Hearts, because if I had written the check, it would bounce. But I can report to you that our club is financially sound. We have, I think I told Roger today, we have $19,000 in the bank, in the club budget, and we only have about, I would say, 8,000 to 9,000 left of obligations for the year, including today. So we have come a long way in that respect, just from a cash flow perspective. I went to Pets, and Mike did rib me a little bit about the district, because he knows that, no offense, Jim, I'm not the biggest fan of the district as Mike is. Sometimes I think they're in our way. But what I will say, and in fact, after the first time I went to Pets, which I believe stands for President-elect Training Seminar, you can correct me if I got that wrong, but I referred to it as putting everyone to sleep. Now, the reason though was not because I had this animosity that Mike thinks I have.
Oh, it's just a new leadership style.
That's right. But here's the difference though. The reason that was because our club is so active and so engaged. There wasn't anything they were telling me that I didn't already know, having just been a member of this club, and all the things we do and all the things you learn just being here. I had a different experience this year at Pets. I will admit, I went in with a bad attitude, Jeff. I will admit that I can't believe I have to go sit in this again. But and she can tell you I was not thrilled about it. But what I will tell you is that our club is the envy of the district. when people found out what club I was with, they could not stop raving about us. People I didn't know, people I didn't know, but people I didn't know were seeking me out to talk about our club. And to be honest, I had a work commitment. I was only there half the time. It was amazing how many people I saw come up to me and ask about our club. I actually went there, in our breakout sessions, we were asked, what are concerns you have for your club? And, you know, the first thing I will tell you is our governor said she is not worried about our club. That's what she came up to me and said to me, I'm not worried about you. You guys are great. You are I won't say she's that you're the model for the district, but she did sort of imply that. And hence she is coming early to do our district, her district presentation. It was going to be July 18th, but she had to have it changed. So August 1st now, by the way, so if you can all be here August 1st, that is going to be our meeting with the district governor. What I found also that although our club is down a little bit in numbers, we are up year to year, but down from where we were when I joined the club, and even maybe 10 years ago, we are way above both from an actual number of roster and engagement than any other club in the area. It was amazing to me, and there were combined districts there. It wasn't just our district, but how some clubs are like 6, 7 members, right? And the president's there for his 4th or 5th year in a row because they can't get it. And one woman was there, I think it was 8 years in a row. She was from Wisconsin, but it was her 8th year in a row as president because they just couldn't get anyone else to do it. So as Roger, I see his escorted ring out, but as Roger indicated, we need to have membership if we're going to have new presidents in and out. Otherwise, you might get more retreads like me. I think, you know, you don't want me a 3rd time, right? So, but what the governor did ask me was, the governor elected at the time asked me, what is your goal for the year? And I said, I got to stand up and say, well, I feel like I already accomplished it. And one of the things that as you all know, the club has had some last minute succession, right? We've had a hard time having the president path filled. I am proud to say, unless, you know, things can change, life happens, but if things go as planned, we now have our next 4 presidents in a row ready to go. And if things really go as planned, possibly the 5th. So we have a little bit of a break. Although the current RI president-elect is not being elected or not being installed. So you never know, things happen. We will have a different president than was intended next week. I don't know, but what it said was there's a number of family and professional obligations that he just could not get around at the last minute. So one thing I did find though was our fundraising level shocked the district and all the other districts that we were there. I actually went in sort of like we were either just about, it might have been the week before the classic or after, I can't recall. And I was thinking, man, we are just not doing well. That is not the time. It was great classic. I don't mean it from that perspective. I don't even mean it from Gail. But we live in Schaumburg, or our club is in Schaumburg. You know, we have Zurich, we have all these places. I was saying, I don't understand why we don't have these companies writing us $100,000 check for the Rotary Club. They couldn't believe we made $150,000, let alone I was concerned about getting some of these whales to give us a bigger check. So maybe we just all need to say, hey, we're doing a good thing, right? And acknowledge that what we're doing is pretty darn good. That said, one of my goals this year is to try to grab a whale or two. And Mike has, where'd you go, Mike? Mike has a good idea that we're going to try to implement where he's reaching out to the mayors. I don't want to steal your thunder, but he's going to reach out to the mayors and find out from them what they believe the corporations in the communities have as their biggest needs and what the village's biggest needs are. We're going to see if we can tie that into getting corporate sponsors in to address those needs. So maybe we will finally grab one of those big whales and take a little bit of the pressure off the membership. We can hope. But it was eye-opening to find out that we really have nothing to complain about compared to other clubs. So I would say, I know we like to talk about how good a club we are, but I can say that I saw it. People really think we're a good club, so we should give ourselves a round of applause. One of the things, there's a new theme. In fact, the new theme from RI is that there are no themes anymore, except for this one, right? And I'm gonna do it now, Roger. the new flag that is Unite for Good. And so I thought, I'm not big on a theme person myself, but I thought that it really envelops what we need to do as a club a little bit. I'm not going to pretend to stand up here and say everything is kumbaya, right? There are some factions in the club, and I use that word somewhat loosely and facetiously, but also we have some people who want to do something one way and another group that wants to do it another way. But based on what I saw at Pets and what everyone had to say about our club, I believe we can unite for good because everyone wants to be like us, right? So what are we fighting about? We're not that we're fighting, but I'm just saying, what are we upset about, right? Like, let's just unite and let's do the good that we like to do, and we can continue to do. One of the things I'd like to do to help that is, and I did this the first time I was president, it also takes a little pressure off of Rachel. We're gonna have a monthly club assembly, like once a month, which might be update from the directors of their area of service. It might be, it might just be a fellowship, right? It could be anything, but we're gonna have our group together to just interact. I've given Rachel some instructions about how we are going to try to find entertainer speakers, and not that we don't want the feel good stories or the feel bad stories as they might be in some circumstances. We're trying to get less people coming to our club for money. We do a lot, right? And we understand that there is the needs out there, and we don't, not that we're opposed to that, but we also want the meeting to be worthwhile for all the members who come. So Rachel has done a good job booking the first 2.5 months. We are pretty solidly booked already. And she is still working. So, and I know she's had a lot going on. So I thank you for how far you've already got. So thank you, Rachel. And I would say, thanks for coming, Jill. I'll see you at home.
Wait, can we come with you?
I got another hour to kill. Yeah, I'm doing my best. What I will say, I'm actually getting towards the end anyway. So what I would ask though, this is something I see in my profession, as I represent a lot of not-for-profit organizations. I know the corporate governance and how it works and the ins and outs of bylaws and meetings and constitutions and all of that stuff. But much like the condo boards that I've represented, or even other organizations like this, I would remind everyone that myself, Roger, the rest of the board, we're all volunteers, right? We volunteer as club members and we volunteer as board members. And by the way, the board meetings are open. Come to the board meetings. Ours are going to be the third Friday of every month, unless there's a change like with the district governor. But at 11 o'clock, you are more than welcome to attend. The only part of the meeting you can't attend is when we talk about what people's ARs are. That's the only part we close. So come. What I would prefer, if possible, is if you do have a question though, or an issue, please bring it to us directly as opposed to blindsiding us from the floor, right? Because it creates tension that we don't have to have. Nobody's trying to hide anything in this club. I assure you. So if there is a question, please reach out to me, reach out to Roger, anybody on the board, or if it's foundation, I'm sure Ed would be glad to hear from you. So it's better than standing up on the floor. And I don't think that it's intended that way, but sometimes it puts us on the defensive as it's accusatory. I would just remind everyone, we're all here for the same purpose. Let's unite for good. And so, with that said, enough of that. Also, as I get to the end here, and I promise I am, I go back to that Pets when they ask me, what goal do we have, right? So our big goal, Mike, is membership for sure. I'm going to pick on Alan for 1 second, not pick on him, but he came up to me recently and said, said to me and said in reference to Diane and Gary, and said it's our job to bring in newer members. I don't disagree. I don't. But some of the changes that Roger graciously allowed us to do last year are designed to help that. If my former employer had not been the supporter of Rotary that he is, I could not have afforded to attend this club on my own. I have my own business now. And so there are still moments where I'm like, this is expensive to be in this club. For someone who's got 4 kids, a daughter going to college, another one's in college, having been divorced and remarried, right? So there's financial things that impact all kinds of members. I like the fact that we are now, everybody pays when you come. You only pay when you come, as opposed to everybody having to pay no matter what. I believe that we can be attractive in that our dues, even though we increased our dues to $50 a month, is still less than a lot of clubs in this area by a lot. And it doesn't even technically cover, that's why when Alan's up here or Jim, whoever, you have to pay, because we count on that to cover the difference between what your dues actually would cost if we didn't have that fundraise. What I was going there for, I think we can get newer members, right? And everyone wants younger members, but it might be necessary for some people at this table, or maybe some people back there, to be president again while we get them in. Because one thing, I did talk to a number of members who were here briefly and left. And the first thing two of them said was they asked me to be president right away. I'd only been in the club 6 or 7 months, you know. Now that was Diane's experience actually, and it's worked out for her, but I don't think everybody can do that. Yeah. Rachel too? Yeah. All right. So yes, we need new members. Mike and Alan do a great job at it. We could all learn from them, and maybe one day maybe you guys can come up and talk about how you do it. Rachel, that would be a good one. But we do need to do that, and we need to get, no offense to everyone in this room, I am as old as Jack has perfect attendance. And I am still one of the youngest members in the club, if you look on cover. So we heard today I was 53. So we need to change our demographic a little bit. So I am ready. The one thing I would say about this club, though, also, in addition to the way that they sell it, from a personal standpoint, the club has been very beneficial to me. As I indicate, I showed up unannounced with my former boss, May of 2005. We introduced ourselves to the then president. Actually, he was president-elect at that time, I believe, Jim Algrim. Sat down, and I basically attended every meeting thereafter until I was either inducted in June, September, or October, whichever one you want to look at. But I had a lot of changes in my personal life while I've been in this club. Shortly after, I was divorced. And I will say, this is one story I want to say about this club. Early on, I was an alternate to the guys who golf on Saturday and Sunday. At the same time, my oldest was starting baseball, so I couldn't commit to every weekend to play golf. And of course, I still can't because I have Jason. But I did fill in here and there. And after my divorce became public, if you will, or the fact that I was getting divorced became public, I got a random call in the middle of the week from a number I didn't recognize. And not someone I had engaged with very often in this club early on. It was Jeff Milstein. And he literally just called me to say, hey, how you doing? And I didn't even really, I knew who he was, but I didn't really know who he was, right? I didn't, and that's what the club did for me. And then when I went through the divorce, there were people there to support me. And then as my career moved, I changed a few times. In 2022, and really it started in 2020, 2021, and but for the pandemic, I probably would have made the change earlier. I relied heavily on a number of members in this club, including Alan. So Alan, thank you. As I decided what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And is it something I could do and should I do, you know, this was all pre-pandemic, and then that hit was even a harder decision to make. And then I will also say to Jim, when I did decide to do that, to start my own firm, I was having a conversation with Jim, and I said, I think I'm going to have to leave the club. I moved to South Elgin. I live in the Fox Valley. It seems like it should make sense that I should be participating there. And I will say that in some respects, part of the reason I'm still with this club and probably why I'm president, Jim told me, do not leave this club. Now that you have left that firm, you will see your business expand like you would not believe. Now, I will say 2 things. I didn't know that my firm that I was at was not well liked. It was not known to me, but apparently that is the case. Yeah, Alan has told me many times since, but he's right. I know that Rotary is not about getting business, but since I left that firm, started my own firm, I have never been without work, and a substantial portion of that work comes either directly or indirectly because of the member in this room. So I thank you all, and I would say there is benefit. That is a major benefit of being a member of this club. Not what we're supposed to do, but it is, and we can't deny it. So I thank you all for that. All right, so now, truthfully, I'm at the end of my speech, Alan. So I remember when I joined the club that Jim Algren was either he was the president at some point. I don't recall if it was because he ended the meeting in a way which I just thought that was how Rotary ended. I didn't know, right? Because it's where I came. And then when the next president took over, nothing against that president, I don't recall who was right after Jim. He didn't do it anymore, and it was surprising to me. So I brought it back when I was president. I got his permission, and I talked to him 2 days ago to see if he would let me do it again, and he graciously said yes. And nothing against the way Roger ended the meeting or anyone else, but I remember Jim would say that if it can be done, it will be done by Rotarians. And I would like to go back to ending the meeting that way for this upcoming year. Because I believe that if you look around and also my experience at Pets, that really is the truth. We want to ask it, it's the truth. I believe that that's the truth. So as far as the lawyer jokes, I don't know. I'm gonna think about that. We're gonna come back to that next year. Not today, we'll see what happens in July. So, and the other thing is, you know, I'm not gonna hide the fact I am Catholic, and at the end of Mass, they always said that the Mass is ended, go out. We did that when I was president. I don't like to do that too. It was that this Rotary meeting is ended, let's go out and unite for good. And of course, if it can be done, it can be done for Rotarians. So with that, I would ask everyone to rise.
And Alan and I do want to probably
And Terry, I think we've exhausted it. Would you like to lead us in the four-way test?
Four-way testing. The thing you do first.
All concerned will build goodwill and better friendships will be beneficial to all concerned.
And with that, our Rotary Club has ended. Let's go out and unite for good. Remember that if it can be done, it will be done. We'll be back in July 11th. Oh, yes. Hey, one last announcement. You can all fight for the centerpieces. Jim would like to take them, and he wants me to remind you that we are not missing one. That table was set and not be used. He brought the right amount of flowers.
I was